I'm the project, and with me here is Susan Buhr, one of the 3 PIs on this project, and we're going to present to you all today the teaching tools that we built over the last almost 3 years now, and especially focus on our review process as one of the big outcomes of our project. So we'll walk you through this, and then we'll have at the end some time for questions. So to just draw attention, I mentioned that earlier, we have a lot of partners. There's the lead institutions on this project. Turk with Bradley is lead PI, and then CERC at Carleton College, and then Ceres are partners here. See also funding the funding that supported us for the first years was NF. We just a month ago negotiated some continued funding with NOAA, so we will continue with some core funding from NOAA, and also be will be to the NOAA site, so available through climate.gov. And that's supplemental funding from the Department of Energy, CSF. So there's different partners that have. We've also partnered with a number of other projects. So if you are writing and you're interested in partnering with us, just contact any of our team members, and we're happy to see we can support your efforts. This project is always a question, an idea, online collection, why we need this. And it's very clear from work that has been done here at Ceres. Susan and Susan Wins have done a lot of work in assessing needs of teachers of what teaching, especially when it comes to controversial topics like climate change. And so a very busy diagram that summarizes results from one of our informant pool. We have a pool of about 200 educators that support clean, just telling us what they need, what they're, how they're outside, what we can improve. And this is just a graphic that summarizes barriers that these people have experienced in their teaching. See, you don't really need to read all the different categories on the left-hand side, but there are 4 categories. So one of them is, which is at the very top, controversy of the topic. So that's obviously something that we need to support educators with. And then you see the red throughout this left diagram here, or the table, lack of high-quality resources. Again, that we Clean Project are trying to address. Lectural development and more personal knowledge is something that comes lower down, but it's really hard to overcome. Supporting teachers in delivering professional development. And I'll go into more details there. And then alignment with standards, one of the topics that educators always face, especially in the K-12 realm, how to align with the standards. So on this call, we have a lot of informal educators and educators, but it's really geared towards the entire spectrum from middle school to informal education. So we are addressing this area. So to the question that we start out with, why collection? So obviously, in climate science, a field that is very fast changing, recent science, recent data, something that is vetted for accuracy in light of very current research is something that a textbook does not deliver. An online collection is a very clear answer to this, just like CAMEL goes the route that we've chosen and really bring educators of this area. We also can integrate real data, again, something that textbooks or online real-time reads harder to incorporate real scientific data. Amount as possible. You just heard Andy say we're going to have another 15 resources up in the next days. That's just something that can only happen in a digital environment. So again, something this is supported well. It also has very easy searches. Every class knows on Sunday night you need to find resources for the class you're teaching on Monday, and it's good, easy search options. So that's another thing that benefit of digital collections. And the access to different resource types, again, like you just saw on CAMEL, where they have videos and background articles and things like that. So that's a very that we've taken, but we address also of educators. So here, just so you know, if you haven't been to the CLEAN site, you can see a screenshot of our site, our search site. I'll search to Dan, and I actually gonna virtual tour later. But this is where you come. This is where you search. On the one again, you have an open search box, but you can also state level. You can search by different topics. You can search by resource type. If you're looking for a video for your undergraduate class, for example, you have easy search options on the right-hand side. To clean a collection that takes resources that are available online. We are also not developing resources ourselves, or only a very few, very number. We adding to existing sites across the web, but what we do is we add value by adding annotations, and these consist of a short description, what one can find, how it takes, what is required, and then a number of review comments. So all the reviewers that have looked at these resources, all comments are summarized in annotations. And educators both looking at these sites, but onto this a little bit later. This is just what you can see when you come to one of the CLEAN sites. And on the right side, again, there's assignments with benchmarks and the standards that teachers are looking for. So to back and say, what is the CLEAN collection? It really is. Our project is called Climate Literacy and Energy Awareness Network. There's a number of teaching tools that offer, but the at very core of our work is this collection that I just showed you, focusing on additional resources for educators, middle school through level classes that focus climate science, climate change, and energy topics. And so it's a spectrum that you find there, but we have to find the scope very clearly for ourselves. And others. That is in CLEAN is peer reviewed. I mentioned that earlier, and we heard from the needs assessments that have been done, and have expressed the need for scientific and pedagogically accurate resources. Go to the details of the review process that we've developed in just a little while. And all these annotations that I just showed you reflect the comments from our reviewers. So it's not lost in a panel. Some idea that someone had, oh, this resource would be great to be used in a classroom with a resource, or there's a great video that somebody knows of. So we have a place where we can put all these comments. And that's especially just supporting K-12 or middle school and high school teachers. We have aligned with different standards. In fact, she went back through the entire collection and retagged the collection with two skills or two vocabulary tags. One of them is we tagged everything that is building quantitative skills in students, so where they're actually using scientific data to complete an activity, because educators have often said that they really are lacking quantitative more resources that quantitative skills in students. And that's also tagged with a regional focus for our resources, because it's so much easier to teach a topic if you can find an example that is relevant to your region. So both these tags are available in our search. The other, in probably more of a side sentence, that we are focusing on climate and energy. It was really helpful for us in terms of the collection development to use these widely endorsed literacy frameworks. The climate and energy literacy, climate was published in 2009, and energy just earlier this year. And we've defined the scope of our collection to really only addressing topics that are outlined in these two documents. Helped our team in finding appropriate resources. Started out because I said energy literacy was only published this year. We started out with an internal set of that we developed. They actually were the starting point for this document, energy literacy principles, because 3 years ago this didn't exist. So, but ideas were merged. We were able to build a crosswalk and incorporate the sources in this new framework. The review process is really something I think that sets CLEAN apart, and that's why that's what we also a lot of our time on is reviewing resources. So why do we do this? Why do we go through all the trouble of having 5 to 7 people look at each resource? When this project was born, it was clear that a lot of resources have just not been subject to rigorous formal review, which in a controversial environment like climate science, an educator who might not have formal training in climate might it might be difficult to assess whether or not a resource is of high quality. So again, going back to this needs assessment that was done, it seemed very important to build trust in educators that we are only putting public resources of high quality. It does pose a lot of challenges to develop such a review process, because unlike a journal peer review process, it has a lot of other aspects that need to be considered, like navigation of a digital resource, data access, elements, and things like that. So it's clear to us that our reviewers needed a much wider expertise than a journal article. So because it's people that have all this expertise in one person, we've decided to have an entire team of reviewers where we have scientists and educators, specialists, some people that are good with technology, coming and looking at each resource. So in the beginning of the final review process, we to define our team what actually makes an excellent resource. And this is really a summary of what we took as guidance to helping our review criteria using in our process. And I don't want to read through all of these different tests here, but it really comes down to 3 different aspects have to be excellent, make it an excellent resource. The science has to be solid, pedagogy has to be engaged in the approach and in the subject. It has to be addressed towards the target audience. And then, of course, the environment also had to look at all the tech aspects that they were, that the usability was environment in the educational environment that this resource was targeting. So all this all comes down to us, to the one sentence at the bottom of this page, that I think that if a educator comes to our site and is excited about finding this resource in our collection, that means it's an excellent resource. What we're hoping to achieve with our process. So a diagram of the entire review process. I'll just walk you from the left to the right and to give you the different steps that we are undergoing. So our left side is entered in our collection either by one of our clean team reviewers or submitted by a developer. So any of you who are interested in having their resource reviewed, we take submissions from developers and are excited to be working with you. We then undergo a form triage, so we look, is it in scope for grade level, is it in scope for the climate and the energy principles, is it in this framework, and it passes these very formal steps. We start with our formal that we've developed. So we then have 2 identical reviews, but by 2 different people, a first and a second round review, and that passes by these educators and scientists that look at the resources, potentially being a specialist. The scientist might not be an expert in the field, but knows enough about the scientific method to know whether or not it's scientifically accurate. The resource is passed on to a review camp. And that is know that is after the NSF panel review, and there are 4 people coming together either virtually or face-to-face, and then these resources taking a look at the previous reviews, and then making a final decision whether or not this resource should be entered in the collection. We do a last check where we send a resource to an expert scientist for quality check, because we can't really guarantee that an expert in the field has looked at it in the previous steps. And then we find the resources and it's feeding the collection. And really from this collection, then the red that you see at the very bottom here, it allows us to look at gaps and thin spots. I'll show you an example of this a few slides. So we can go to developers and say really that it's like there is a lack of high quality resources in a certain field, and might inform developers or new solicitations. And I don't want to spend too much time on this, but in here is the clean process. You can see the green area. We work with developers together to submit resources, and we give feedback, and they can resubmit their resources after review. So the review questionnaire for the first 2 rounds has 6 questions, so it's not just it's not to fill out. It really these questions help every reviewer to consider the relevant aspects of a high-quality resource, and it comes to a quantitative rating of low, high priority, and that's how we move this forward in our system. I've already mentioned that has really shown we've had 7 panel reviews, I think, over the last 3 years. Some of them were 2.5 days, some were just 4-hour virtual camps. Have really been beneficial for everyone, because bringing 4 experts together discussing resources has helped us define a lot better, and it really brings out a lot of these valuable annotations and thoughts that these experts have on the resources. So a very successful model, and virtually they are also not very expensive. Here is something that we are very about. We really think it's important that we find an expert in the field to looking at the resources. It is probably one of our biggest challenges, though, in our project, because we need to recruit scientists and match them with the correct space. We have a hard time finding enough scientists to energy resources. We are always looking for scientists, so anyone on the call here who is excited to help out, it sometimes just takes 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes to review a resource. You can sign up and just do a couple of the courses, and that's going to help educators and us and the project. So what's in our collection? I mentioned it earlier. There's an online search bar, our clean reviewers. We do targeted searches after gap analysis. So we've done 3 of gap analysis, and really try to and on the gap to fill them. We had a big gap in the Milankovitch cycles, and we really made a point and looked for high resources and where to fill this gap. But then again, all of you that are potentially developing resources, we have submission possible through public forums or us for an iterative review process. Numbers, we have vetted a lot of resources, and only a very small amount of those passed. The biggest step that you can see here, from 14,000 to 2,000, it really is these resources that didn't fit in the scope of the collection. So it's that we have formal step 2, they can narrow maybe for scientific accuracy or pedagogic inaccuracy or things like that, not effectiveness in pedagogy. So we have 500 resources, still in the process of cataloging 50. So currently we have 450 resources, I think, available. For the gaps and thin spot analysis that I mentioned earlier, again, something that is very probably interesting for any resource developer. On our website, our gap analysis was done in February. We are planning on doing one early next year again. We have these gap analysis by grant, by literacy results. So you can see here with a lot of resources, and we have places where there's just a few resources that were found. Work triplets and their benchmark service, we have developed maps for teaching climate and energy topics. You can go on the CLEAN site and learn about learning progression. So what do students need to know before I teach a certain content that is then again middle school and high school focused. But if you are teaching an undergraduate class and want to teach the greenhouse effect, which is something that has been taught at the high school level, it's a very valuable tool to show what students should know beforehand, and then maybe in your assessment, in your revisions before actually getting into a certain topic, you can more what students might not know, or why it's harder for a student to find follow the instruction. So if you click any of these ideas, you can see available national science standards, and you can also see clean resources to teach the standard. So that is a valuable tool if you wanted to plan your lesson and need more idea how to support your instruction. Clean project with pro development. We offered webinars for 2-hour webinars, 2-hour webinars for teachers, and they're all recorded. We always had a expert scientist on the call and an educator discussing how to teach it. But then we had 4 workshops for college faculty, and they recorded, and we had a number of outstanding presentations. The workshops were probably 3 days total. They were spread out over 2 weeks, and there was always sprinkled through presentations and then group discussions. So if you are interested in any of these presentations, they're all captured and available on the CLEAN website. So, and there's a few highlights of talks that also show the breadth. And John Cook is from Australia, Kane Yurt is from Germany. They're international centers, which is easy in an online environment, that brings together very interesting expertise. We helped another tool to supporting teachers in their needs for their own professional development. We have developed these, what we call teaching about pages. So for one of these principles, climate and energy, we have pages that summarize what does that mean and why is it important, but also why is it challenging to teach, what are common misconceptions. So really summarize the literature that supports teachers, and that also show activities that are available to support instructors. So that's available on the CLEAN site also. So the end of the tools we are presenting, another way for any who has a website, any agency or institution who would like to have feature the CLEAN resources on their website, can syndication, they really copy and pasted all the content from CLEAN. But what you can also do is you can get our widget for free, and we're happy to help you in this. It's a very easy code you enter into your web page, and you can any user of your web page can search a CLEAN collection and return results to your website. So we can specific needs. The widget, you can find it on the Alliance for Climate Education, uses it, National Science for Science Education, so there's a number of places this is already used, and give us great but it also returns usage to all the developers. So it's a combination tool. Circle back on a CAMEL webinar. Here's one example of an activity that harvested from CLEAN. It's an activity about gliding retreat. Target audience is under. You see their catalog record on CLEAN. On CAMEL here is the same activity CLEAN with all the information. So they CAMEL resources that are appropriate for their collection from our site mirrors them. So I thought I could take out a virtual tour, but it feels like we have only 20 minutes left. It's better to open for questions. All right, a query. So it has a peer-reviewed collection of climate and energy topics, support educators a number of different ways. There are ways of how you can participate. You can tell your colleagues. You can use CLEAN for your teaching. You can submit resources if you are a developer. If you are a scientist, you can become a science reviewer. So resources available.
I just wanted to let you know about a couple of other things that are coming up. And these are with the sister project, the IC project. A couple things that are coming up is an online course for educators, which is a 3-credit or 12-week course. It's for graduate credit through the Environmental Studies Department at CU Boulder. And it focuses on an introduction to climate literacy principles and so on teaching strategies for communicating about this controversial, complex topic. We're starting a new course starting in January, and this is suitable for informal educators, educators. We've had a number of different people join, including graduate students. So if you're wondering if this might be suitable for you or for some of the people you work with, please give me or Amanda Morton an email. And another thing that you may be interested in is the Serious Climate and Energy Book Club that we're doing through IC. And this is something we started fun, basically because we like to read and we like to read about climate and energy. We read 1 month and we meet on a webinar once a month, and this is an interesting group. It's readers, scientists, writers who are interested in reading and communicating with students and just talking about climate science and how it is reflected in literature. Most of what we read is fiction. It's adult fiction, but also some adult fiction and some nonfiction that's accessible to young readers. So our next book club is happening at the end of this week, which is a young adult novel. Now, 2 books we're pretty excited about: 40 Signs of Rain and Flight Behavior, which is by King Solver. So if you're interested in joining, that's an informal discussion group. You learn more about that by also emailing Amanda Morton. She's there at the bottom. I see a lot of questions that are coming through the chat. So, good time?
Yeah, it's good time. Yeah. If we can get both of us on the screen. So I see here, are there resources for middle school? Yes, there are a lot of resources for middle school. In fact, in high school is probably the most we have. Obviously, a lot of high school resources can be used in our class, and depending on your middle school, you can use some of the high school resources. But yes, there are a lot of middle school resources.
Also, upper elementary teachers are using our clean resources and just adapting. Let's see, there were questions about where to get some graphs. Perspective have altered their teaching. I guess that's from the first graph that you showed.
Probably.
So from our evaluation studies, which are not in journals, but if you email us, we can share pertinent data. Let's see. Can you chat?
I think that's the first chat question. Okay, let's see if there's another question, and we can do a virtual tour. All right. We are. So you should. Okay, you should be seeing now. So here is the start page from CLEAN, and the top here it says teaching climate literacy, energy awareness. This is where you can get to these teaching about pages organized by topic. Here they are organized by principle. We are just by the end of December we'll have all the literacy principles also available. They are in the development version only at the moment. But here you see what I was talking about earlier. What does it mean? Why is it important? What's this principle challenging to teach? How teaching? There's a site here with benchmarks of science literacy. Then you can search for activities and some references available for any of these principles. There's actually something fun. It's an energy awareness quiz. If you need just some activity with your class as an intro or a post-assessment, these are interesting questions where you can have students knowledge. So I'm going to go back to the CLEAN page just to help you with the navigation of the site. The second tab here is brings you that the screen that I showed you earlier. Here, for example, if we are looking for here Colorado, Pine Bark, Beal is a very topic. So you see there are 12 matches, 1 activity, 3 visualizations, 8 videos. By topic here, you can see 12 attack with middle school, 12 are appropriate for high school, 9 of those are appropriate for college. Obviously, these numbers, because some are appropriate for all levels, but our educators on the team were pretty thoughtful of really looking through what this would be, a grade level would be appropriate for. Searching for OSHA certification, for example, you get a little more activities. We have a short demonstration or experiment. There are visualizations, videos. For example, putting this second here, what is an acidification? You can see here it's a static image from tips. And now I can actually scroll down so you can see something about the science, something about pedagogy, something about the usability, and else if there's anything that came up in our reviews, we said, oh, I know this really interesting site. here over on the right-hand side, you can see the alignment with benchmarks and the climate literacies, which are relevant, and then the different topics and grade levels. So that's just support. Search. And if you go to the website yourself, itself, click on that blue unnamed hyperlink, and that opens the resource itself. Go, front page then. Anything else that I've shown you is in there under our community pages. See here for educators, for developers, for everyone. So you are a resource developer. You can search a resource here following this link. You can volunteer to be a science reviewer. You can do it if you don't have to be a developer, but it's on this website. It's on the site. You can learn more about the review process. You can access the gap and thin spot analysis here. Participate in discuss threads. Back. If you're a learner, access to these casts you can find by clicking on workshops and webinars. And here you can see the 2012 workshops. One of them was communicating climate science in the classroom, teach about climate complexity. 2011 there was a climate and energy workshop. The webinars for educators, for middle and high school educators, serve each of these principles of climate literacy and energy. You can just click on these and see the slides, see the webcast, and think that. Yeah, it's always a featured resource, and I'll go back to our slide because two of the that are probably moving are on this on the slide. So if you want to submit a resource, that's the URL. Or if you want to become a site reviewer, that's the URL down here. Yes, we're happy to share this with you. Another question, Climate Literacy Network. Do you want to talk about benefits of the Climate Literacy Network?
Okay. I think that the benefits probably depend on what you want to get out of it. But what is really beneficial about the Climate Literacy Network is that it's such a broad community. It's educators, see people who think about communication, people who think about philosophy and ethics. It's a pretty rich, very well connected, and very well informed community. It's easy and it's free. You send an email to you should. Can you send the link to?
We can send out the link. I can send it to Ginny, and then.
Okay, so we can send you the link for her to sign up, and then what happens after that is you're part of a community that's really doing climate education. So a listserv, which is very active, at times kind of hyperactive, in which case, if that's a concern, you would just choose to have the digest version of the network, and then you can see the communication, which is really rich. And if you have a question about climate education and you post that question there, you get close to immediate responses from people who know what they're talking about. That's useful. There's a teleconference, and there are speakers and also people kind of doing joint problem solving over what should we do about this piece of climate education, having those kinds of in-depth conversations as a community, which is great. The Climate Literacy Network has a voice on is asked to give critical stakeholder feedback on things that are coming down the pike, like the next generation science standards. So it's nice to have a community focused on climate education, climate literacy that's providing that. And lastly, the Climate Literacy Network works together to propose a set of sessions for the upcoming American Geophysical Union meeting. As a result of this coordination that's been happening through the Climate Literacy Network, there's a lot more sessions, a lot more abstracts, and a lot more presence for climate literacy at a meeting than there used to be. So those are some of the benefits. It's easy and easy to join, and you participate to the extent that they like, and nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Yeah, I would like to add is there's often some confusion about CLEAN and Climate Literacy Network. In theory, these are two distinct groups, but there's a lot of overlap, and that's probably where the confusion comes from. So as this project, NSF funded initially, and now NOAA funded, that builds and supports teachers, the Climate Literacy Network is really, like Susan described, this group of stakeholders that are supporting CLEAN, supporting CAMEL, and other climate projects. It's not that project focused, not focused on a collection, but it evolved from there. And Tamara Ledley is lead on the Climate Literacy Network, just like she is the lead on the CLEAN project.
There's a question about guidelines for using the lessons. We hold the lessons for CLEAN. The intellectual property for that is with the original developers. Whatever that for them. So you need to get permission from them like you normally would. What the CLEAN project provides is the review and the annotations that the original resource. And we haven't discussed any guidelines or procedures for using our annotations. If you like to use annotations in the review, I would suggest that you email us and talk about what you're working on.
All right. Any others? There are 5 minutes. Asking, are you doing outreach to school principals and administrators to integrate climate literacy into curricula at a broad level? So in the broad, like Susan said earlier, CLEAN with the CL network has provided guidance on the NGSS standards and especially comments on the earth science part of this new framework and where climate is incorporated there, which is like people who've looked at its position in this new framework. That's the broadest level of input that we've given. We actually are. We have one of our team members here at Ceres working in contacting all the state science supervisors to talk about CLEAN and offering services. So that's the two big and most coordinated efforts we do, and then we respond to any request for support that we get, and we send at conferences, NSTA, and other educator meetings. We, the National Wild Federation Eco Schools program, we are not, the collaboration we have with them is that we are doing iterative review for some of the resources. So that's the information at the moment. But we're always happy to collaborate if somebody approaches us.
The climate literacy, the climate literacy principles brochure, it's available as a free download. It's now one of the official U.S. Gold Research Program documents, and so we can send that link out for the download along the other links that we asked Ginny to send. This is for journalists. Wow. No. But I journalist, there's probably some input there anyway, even though not forged per se. But the teaching about pages and just the conceptual framework of what to think about climate science is probably a good thing to know about as a journalist. I'm not question for the Climate Literacy Network. Well, looks like the hosts are reminding you everything is posted on that. And so if you have more questions, feel free to email Susan, Buhr, or I, and look forward to use CLEAN or work with us in any other way that we mentioned. See how many